All right, we are officially starting our notes for Chapter 9 today. So remember, just like any time we do a self-paced day, you are writing everything Mrs. Jenkins is writing. So today we are going to be doing Lesson 1, which is rounding fractions. Okay, so Chapter 9, Lesson 1, round fractions. Don't forget your name, and don't forget the date, which it is the 19th today. Okay, all right. So, we're going to go ahead and just round fractions today. It's going to be pretty simple. Hopefully you remember how to round and things like that, because that'll make our lives so much easier. Okay, here's our example for today. A poison dart frog is 2 inches long. So one thing right off the bat that I know is that the dart frog is 2 inches long. This is equal to 2/12 of a foot. So I know that 2 inches is equal to 2/12 of a foot. So I'm going to ask you, is 2/12, so we're focused on this 2 out of 12, closest to 0, 1, or 1/2? Which one is it closest to? Okay? Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to create a number line in order to figure this out. Again, you should have hopefully been doing number lines for a while now, so this shouldn't be brand new to you. Okay? All right. So whenever we do this, we're going to start at 0, okay? Because that's one of our numbers that we're going to look at as well. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make, I was making sure, sorry, 12 lines, because we've got it out of 12, okay? Should have known that right off the bat, Mrs. Jenkins. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And my lines kind of got funky near the end, but doesn't matter as long as it gets the point across, okay? In the middle of our lines, okay, is going to be our 1/2, because remember, half is straight in the middle, okay? So what's half of 12? Hopefully in your head you said, oh, it's 6. Okay, so we're going to count 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here is our 1/2, or our 6 out of 12. Okay, because that's half of 12. And then, of course, at the very end, we're going to have our 1. Okay, so 1 whole, or 12 over 12. Okay, so these are my 3 that I'm trying to figure out what 2/12 is closest to. Okay, it's either going to be closest to 0, 1/2, or 1. Okay, so all I have to do, because I have it out of 12, is count my number on top, or my numerator. Okay, so 1, 2, 2 over 12. Okay, boom, easy. Okay, so now you need to decide which number is that closest to. Is that closest to my 1/2, my 1, or my 0? I hope you can tell right off the bat that that is going to be closest to my 0, right? It's about 3 or 4 lines away from 1/2, and it is about 1 line away from 0, and it's quite a few lines away from 1. So we are going to say that 2/12 is closest to 0. So that is what we would round that fraction to, is 0. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and look at quite a few things that we can do right off the bat. All right, so we've got some key concepts. So again, I want you to write these down, because this is going to help you immensely on your homework. Okay, so our first thing is rounding down. Okay, if the numerator, which you remember is the top number, even just put a little 2/12 and point it to that 2 to make sure you know it's the top number. is much smaller than the denominator, sorry, gotta take my time, then you're going to round the fraction down to 0. So even our example we just had, 2/12. 2 is significantly smaller than 12, so we could have just figured in our heads that because it's so much smaller, we're probably going to round it down to 0. Okay? Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be that way, so just make sure you double check on your number lines. Okay? All right. Our second one, rounding to 1/2. Okay? If the numerator, again, that top number, is about half of the denominator, you're going to round the fraction to 1/2. Okay, so let me show you an example. 6/10. Okay, half of 10 is 5. I almost said 6. Half of 10 is 5. So since this is about half, a little more than, but it's not quite more than, we're going to go ahead and round it to 1/2. Okay, and the last one, probably guessed it, is rounding up. Okay. So if the numerator, again, that top number, is almost as large as the denominator, the bottom number in a fraction, then we're going to round the fraction up to 1. Okay? All right. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even notice that it wasn't on my screen. Okay. So, if the numerator is almost as large as the denominator, round the fraction up to 1. Okay? So that would be a fraction like 9/10. Okay? 9 is very close to 10. We're almost at 1 whole, because a 1 whole would be 10 out of 10. So, that's when we would round it to 1. Okay? So, we're going to go ahead and try another example. So again, if you remember, this is your self-paced day, so if you need to pause me because you didn't quite get the notes, that's fine. I'm moving on. If you're with me, that's fine as well. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do example number 2. Our first one was our dart frog. Okay, we're going to round 4/9 to 1, 0, or 1/2. Okay? Now, you can follow kind of what we just said. So the numerator 4 is very close to half of 9, right? Okay? So what would I round it to? If I go back to my notes, okay, it says round down if the numerator is much smaller. Okay, that's not really the case in this problem right here. Okay, it's not much smaller. It's not at 2, it's not at 1. So let's look at another one. What about round to 1/2? It says if the numerator is about half of the denominator. Okay, half of 9 is 4.5. So 4 is pretty close to 4.5. So we're going to go ahead and just say that 4/9 rounds to 1/2. Okay, now what I would suggest, okay, as helpful as this is, I would double check your work and make sure that you got it correct, okay, by doing it on a number line. So we're going to do that to check our work real quick. Remember, we always start with 0 over here, okay, and then I'm going to make 9 lines going this way. So I always have one extra line for that 0, okay? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and find my 1/2, which would be about 4 1/2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go right in the middle of those for my 1/2, okay? And then I'm going to go here for my 1, okay? So since 1/2 is here, and I'm going to graph my thing at 4/9, which is right here, that's very close to 1/2. So I'm going to assume that my answer is correct because it's not closer to 0 or 1 than it is to 1/2. It is literally right there, okay? So we got our answer correct. So let's go ahead and try a couple more. All right, 5/6. Now that little equal sign with this means we're rounding, okay? Come on, focus up. Sorry, technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, so we are, again, figuring out if it's close to 1, 0, or 1/2, okay? So let's go ahead and we're going to do this one on a number line. Again, always start with 0, and then I'm going to do my 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? This is my 1 at the end. Always, half of 6 is 3, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do 5/6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, based off of that, I hope that you see that it is closest to that 1. Okay, perfect, easy peasy. Let's do one more together, and then I'm going to have you do a couple on your own. Today's a pretty simple day. All right, we've got 5/8. So let's go ahead and do it on our number line. So I've got my 0 first, then I need to do my 8 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And of course this is always 1. Okay, half of 8 is 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And my 5/8, of course, is just going to be right here. Okay, pretty simple to tell. That is closest to 1/2. Okay, hopefully you're kind of understanding this. If not, come talk to me and we'll see what we can do for you. All right, here are your example problems, or not your example problems, your problems that you need to try on your own. First one, you're going to go ahead and tell me what is 1/8 closest to. Number 2, tell me what 5/9 is closest to. And number 3, tell me what 7/8 is closest to. All right, come show me once you've got your answers.